15 hours on the morning of June 11, 1944, Lieutenant Colonel Robert G. Cole stood in a ditch beside a Norman causeway, watching his battalion die at a rate of one man every 4 minutes. In front of him, 150 yards across open ground, German MG42 machine guns fired 1,200 rounds per minute from prepared positions at the Ingouf Farm. Behind him, 265 American paratroopers lay pressed into the mud, pinned down for over an hour with no artillery support, no air cover, and ammunition running low. Cole was 29 years old, held the rank of lieutenant colonel, and in the next 3 minutes would order something no American officer had ordered in Europe since 1918, fix bayonets. The order violated every principle of modern infantry doctrine. Machine guns had made bayonet charges obsolete in 1916 on the Somme. Charging across 150 yards of open ground into interlocking fields of fire from MG42s was not tactics, it was suicide. But Cole understood mathematics that morning. His battalion was being destroyed piecemeal where it lay. Staying meant death by attrition. Attacking meant possible death, but also the only chance of survival. At 06 on 15 hours, Cole drew his Colt .45 pistol, rose to his feet, and blew his whistle. Then he walked forward into German machine gun fire. Robert George Cole was born March 19, 1915, at Fort Sam Houston in San Antonio, Texas. Born on a military installation to a family with traditions of service, the kind of background that created expectations, not choices. He attended Thomas Jefferson High School in San Antonio, then entered West Point with the class of 1939. That class numbered 456 cadets who graduated on June 12, 1939. Of those 456, 70 would become generals, 24 would earn the Distinguished Service Cross, 96 would receive the Distinguished Flying Cross, 2 would earn the Medal of Honor posthumously. Cole would be one of them. Upon commissioning, Cole received assignment as a second lieutenant to the 15th Infantry Regiment at Fort Lewis, Washington, standard posting for a West Point graduate. But in 1941, Cole made a choice that separated him from standard officers. He volunteered for paratrooper training at Fort Benning, Georgia. The program was new, experimental, dangerous. Men died in training. Equipment failed. Doctrine was being written in real time by instructors who were learning as they taught. Cole earned his jump wings in March 1941 and joined the 501st Parachute Infantry Regiment, one of the Army's first airborne formations. Physically, Cole stood tall, lean, and muscular. His voice was distinctive, a booming instrument he rarely modulated. He wore his overseas cap cocked back on his head in a manner that suggested confidence bordering on insubordination. His command style was direct and uncompromising. He ruled his battalion with iron-fisted discipline, demanded absolute compliance, and earned respect by leading from the front. Soldiers who served under Cole described him as an officer who genuinely cared about his men while simultaneously expecting them to meet standards that most units considered unreasonable. By June 1944, at age 29, Cole commanded the 3rd Battalion, 502nd Parachute Infantry Regiment of the 101st Airborne Division, a position typically held by officers with significantly more service time. Carentan was a town of 4,000 inhabitants in 1944, unremarkable by Norman standards, but geography made it indispensable. The town straddled the Cherbourg-Paris Railroad and controlled highways connecting Bayeux, Saint-Lô, and Caen. More critically, Carentan represented the only point where American forces landing on Utah Beach and Omaha Beach could establish continuous contact. As long as Germans held Carentan, the Normandy beachhead remained divided into isolated segments, vulnerable to German counterattacks against separated forces. Taking Carentan meant unifying the Allied front. Losing Carentan meant the beachhead could be defeated in detail. The terrain around Carentan had been weaponized by German engineers with deliberate precision. Agricultural plains surrounding the town had been intentionally flooded using techniques Napoleon had recognized 150 years earlier. Water created barriers more formidable than concrete. The only elevated route into Carentan from the north was a narrow causeway, 2 kilometers long, rising 2 to 3 meters above marshland. National Route 13. The causeway was perhaps 40 feet wide at its broadest point, spanning the Douve River, the Madeleine River, and 2 Douve canals via 4 separate bridges. This narrowness created fatal tactical implications. Any attacking force would be canalized into single-file approach, fully exposed to concentrated fire from front and flanks. Defenders could position machine guns to create overlapping fields of fire that would turn the causeway into an abattoir. The defense of Carentan had been entrusted to the 6th Fallschirmjäger Regiment, Luftwaffe paratroopers commanded by Oberst Friedrich August Freiherr von der Heydte. The unit had been reconstituted in early 1944 from veteran paratroopers and Luftwaffe ground personnel. Average age was 17.5 years, but officers and NCOs carried extensive combat experience from Crete and the Eastern Front. As of June 6, 1944, the regiment mustered approximately 4,500 personnel equipped with Kar 98K rifles, MG34 and MG42 machine guns, 80mm and 60mm mortars, and supporting artillery positioned to interdict American approaches. Field Marshal Rommel had personally ordered von der Heydte to defend Carentan to the last man. Rommel understood that losing Carentan would necessitate German withdrawal from the entire Cotentin Peninsula. German defensive positions were prepared with professional competence, machine gun nests positioned in hedgerows with overlapping fields of fire, mortar positions pre-registered on the causeway and bridges, snipers in elevated positions. The 6th Fallschirmjäger had dug into the massive Norman hedgerows that created natural fortifications with excellent concealment and clear firing positions. They had mines, obstacles, and fallback positions. They expected Americans to attack down the causeway because there was no other route. They were prepared to kill every American who tried. On the night of June 5 to 6, 1944, Colt jumped with his battalion into Normandy. The drop scattered paratroopers across the landscape. Colt landed well west of his designated drop zone. Despite dispersion, he demonstrated immediate leadership by gathering scattered soldiers. By evening of June the 6th, Colt had assembled approximately 75 men and secured Exit 3 from Utah Beach at Hauteville-la-Hubert, aiding inland movement of the 4th Infantry Division. Between June 7th and 10th, the 3rd Battalion fought through difficult bocage country, gradually assembling strength as scattered soldiers rejoined. The battalion entered the Carentan operation with approximately 700 men. The fighting during this period was characterized by constant casualties from German artillery, mortars, machine guns, and snipers. On June 10, 1944, General Maxwell Taylor ordered the assault on Carentan. Colt's 3rd Battalion would attack from the north down the causeway. In the afternoon of June 10th, Colt led approximately 400 men toward the causeway. The advance immediately encountered intense fire from German positions defending Bridge No. 2. An 80mm anti-tank gun engaged American engineers attempting to repair the damaged bridge, pinning them down and preventing passage. Colt's men halted short of their objective, taking shelter in ditches alongside the causeway while German shells, mortars and machine gun fire systematically tore at their positions. Despite heavy fire, Colt organized a reconnaissance patrol. Lieutenant Ralph B. Gerhardt led a small team that paddled across the Douve River and proceeded single file down the causeway toward Bridge No. 4. At Bridge No. 4, Americans discovered a Belgian Gate, a metal and concrete obstacle completely spanning the roadway, designed to stop vehicles while funneling infantry into killing zones. Gerhardt's patrol managed to pry an opening just large enough for a single man to squeeze through, an exhausting process under fire that forced withdrawal after sketching German positions. Throughout the morning of June 10th, Army engineers failed to repair Bridge No. 2. Growing impatient with delays and unwilling to waste daylight, Cole took direct action. Armed with engineer's rope and accompanied by his G Company commander and 2 other men, Cole personally constructed a makeshift footbridge using salvaged planks and materials left by engineers. This improvised crossing, later described as a bit wobbly, allowed the battalion to begin moving across in single file. The process took hours while German artillery and snipers picked at the column. Only after midnight did the bulk of the battalion manage to squeeze through the gap at Bridge No. 4's Belgian Gate. After brutal nocturnal movement, Cole's lead companies pushed southward in pre-dawn darkness toward the Ingouf Farm. As dawn broke, scouts discovered the objective. 4 stone farm buildings surrounded by well-maintained hedgerows and small orchards that Germans had fortified with machine gun positions, slit trenches, and prepared fields of fire. Within minutes of contact, Cole's advance elements came under devastating fire. German machine gunners, mortarmen, and riflemen opened fire from farm buildings, hedgerows, and prepared positions, immediately pinning Americans in open ground between Bridge No. 4 and German defences. For more than an hour, Cole's battalion lay immobilised, taking casualties at steady rate. Wounded men cried for medics. Dead paratroopers lay in the open, creating obstacles and demoralisation. The situation deteriorated visibly as ammunition dwindled and wounded accumulated. Cole recognised his battalion faced potential destruction if immediate action was not taken. Attacking across 150 yards under direct machine gun fire presented extraordinary risks. Conventional tactical doctrine would dictate withdrawal and reorganisation. Yet Cole understood that allowing Germans to maintain position would ultimately doom not just his battalion, but the entire Normandy operation. Cole's artillery officer called for fire support from 2 American artillery batteries, the 65th Armored Field Artillery Battalion with 105mm self-propelled guns, and the 907th Glider Field Artillery Battalion with 75mm pack howitzers, positioned approximately 2 kilometers behind American positions. The artillery responded with devastating barrage on suspected and known German positions, concentrating fire on farm buildings and surrounding hedgerows. The bombardment lasted approximately 30 minutes and was partially effective in suppressing German fire, though well-dug-in German defenders proved difficult to silence. At approximately 0615 hours, Cole made his decision. The situation could not be resolved by attrition. His men were being killed at unsustainable rate with the battalion immobilised. He ordered final artillery barrage followed by smokescreen to mask American approach. More critically, he passed orders to Major John P. Stopka, his executive officer, to have the battalion fix bayonets and prepare for assault. Cole's decision to order a bayonet charge in June 1944 was extraordinary. By World War II, bayonet charges had largely become obsolete in European combat. Firepower and artillery had created defensive positions that rendered mass charges suicidal under most circumstances. Yet Cole's situation was unique. His battalion was already being destroyed piecemeal. Forward progress had been arrested. Maintaining status quo meant certain casualty-laden defeat. A bold assault, even at terrible cost, offered the only prospect of breakthrough. Cole's order was unambiguous. Fix bayonets, prepare to assault across open ground, and overwhelm German positions through close combat if necessary. The order was communicated verbally to company commanders and passed down the chain. Due to noise of artillery, intervening terrain, and confusion inherent in combat, not all soldiers received clear notification. This communication failure would have consequences. At 0615 hours, following final artillery barrage and deployment of smoke grenades, Cole stood up from his position and raised his whistle to his lips. He had drawn his Colt .45 pistol and waited for smoke to settle over German positions. With smoke providing concealment, Cole blew his whistle in signal for attack. The initial response was limited. Perhaps 20 paratroopers, seeing their battalion commander on his feet charging toward enemy, immediately rose and followed. The shock of Cole's personal bravery, standing upright and advancing at steady pace toward enemy machine gun positions, was transformative. What began as a handful of men quickly attracted more. Major Stopka, seeing Cole's action, rallied approximately 50 additional men and charged in Cole's wake. As other soldiers observed the charge in progress, momentum became irresistible. Paratroopers who initially hadn't understood the order saw comrades charging and instinctively joined the assault, crossing the ditch and advancing across bullet-swept open ground. Cole led this charge with drawn pistol, advancing directly toward the Ingouf Farm buildings. The distance was approximately 300 meters across relatively open ground and through hedgerows. German machine gunners, despite smoke cover and preceding artillery, maintained fire. American paratroopers fell as they crossed open ground. Men struck multiple times by bullets, their bodies tumbling or thrown backward by impact. The smoke and chaos created hell of noise, dust, smoke, and blood. The charge covered 300 meters in time span that witnesses described variably. Some accounts suggested mere minutes, others indicated the assault extended longer as soldiers navigated hedgerows and took cover behind farm structures. German defenders, whether stunned by American audacity, overwhelmed by sudden appearance of charging paratroopers at close range, or concerned about their flanks, began to break and retreat from farm buildings. As Cole and the assault wave reached the Ingouf Farm, close-quarter combat erupted. Some accounts mention bayonet use. Others describe pistol and rifle fire at near point-blank range. Cole, having expended ammunition in his pistol, picked up a fallen soldier's rifle with bayonet fixed and continued the assault, leading his men through and beyond farm buildings into surrounding hedgerow positions where German defenders attempted to reorganize. By approximately 700 hours, Cole had established control of the Ingouf Farm and immediate surrounding hedgerow positions. He set up battalion command post inside farm buildings from which he could direct further operations and fire support. Elements of Lieutenant Colonel Patrick Cassidy's 1st Battalion, 502nd PIR, which had been in supporting position around the causeway, began moving forward to reinforce Cole's foothold. The charge came at extraordinary price. Of the 265 paratroopers Cole had led in direct assault, 130 became casualties, a loss rate exceeding 49%. The battalion as whole had entered Carentan operation with approximately 700 men. After 2 days of fighting, only 132 soldiers remained effective, an 81% casualty rate that stands among the highest in American airborne operations during World War II. If you want to see what German prisoners said about facing Americans charging with bayonets through machine gun fire, subscribe now. Their testimony changed military thinking about what terror actually means in modern warfare. Von der Heydte's paratroopers, facing shock of an American bayonet charge and increasingly outflanked as American reinforcements poured into Bridgehead, made calculated decision to withdraw from Carentan rather than be completely encircled. The German commander recognized he no longer commanded sufficient strength to hold the town against mounting American reinforcement. Captured German soldiers provided striking testimony regarding psychological impact of Cole's charge. One German prisoner told Reuters correspondents they charged like wild animals, screamed and shouted when they charged into our fire. It was unbelievable. Such accounts suggest the American assault violated German tactical assumptions about how American troops would conduct themselves under fire, catching defenders psychologically off balance despite superior defensive positions. By evening of June 11th, von der Heydte had withdrawn the bulk of 6th Fallschirmjäger Regiment from Carentan, moving south and west to avoid encirclement. Brigadier General Ostendorf, commanding the 17th SS Panzergrenadier Division, which was moving up to counterattack, was reportedly furious at the loss of Carentan and initially sought von der Heydte's arrest for defeatism. Only intervention from higher-ranking Wehrmacht officers prevented arrest. With German retreat from Carentan, elements of the 506th Parachute Infantry Regiment, following behind Cole's 3rd Battalion, were able to move through Bridgehead and enter Carentan itself. By dawn of June 12th, American paratroopers of multiple regiments established control of the town centre. The capture of Carentan by American airborne and glider forces allowed vital union of Utah and Omaha beachheads. By June 12th, American forces had established continuous front lines stretching from Utah Beach southwestward through Carentan and eastward to link with forces from Omaha beachhead. This junction, achieved at great cost in casualties, fundamentally changed the tactical situation. The Normandy beachhead could no longer be defeated piecemeal by German counterattacks against divided forces. General Maxwell Taylor, commanding the 101st Airborne Division, recommended Cole for the Medal of Honor for his actions on June 11, 1944. The citation recognized his gallantry and intrepidity at risk of his own life above and beyond call of duty. The formal citation stated that Lieutenant Colonel Cole was personally leading his battalion in forcing the last 4 bridges on road to Carentan when his entire unit was suddenly pinned to ground by intense and withering enemy rifle, machine gun, mortar, and artillery fire placed upon them from well-prepared and heavily fortified positions within 150 yards of foremost elements. After devastating and unceasing enemy fire had for over 1 hour prevented any move and inflicted numerous casualties, Lieutenant Colonel Cole, observing this almost hopeless situation, courageously issued orders to assault enemy positions with fixed bayonets. With utter disregard for his own safety and completely ignoring enemy fire, he rose to his feet in front of his battalion and with drawn pistol shouted to his men to follow him in assault. Catching up a fallen man's rifle and bayonet, he charged on and led remnants of his battalion across bullet-swept open ground and into enemy position. Cole's Medal of Honor had significant implications for other officers' recognition. Captain Richard D. Winters, commanding Easy Company of the 506th Regiment, had been recommended for Medal of Honor for his extraordinary leadership during Brecourt Manor assault on June 6, 1944. Colonel Robert Sink, commanding the 506th Regiment, formally recommended Winters for Medal of Honor. However, Army policy at the time permitted only 1 Medal of Honor per division. Since Cole's award had already been submitted and approved through chain of command for 101st Airborne Division, Winters' nomination was downgraded to Distinguished Service Cross, the Army's 2nd highest award for valor. Cole never lived to receive medal bearing his name. After consolidation of Normandy and subsequent breakthrough toward Cherbourg, the 101st Airborne Division was withdrawn from frontline fighting in late June 1944 for refitting and reorganization in England. Cole's 3rd Battalion, having suffered catastrophic casualties at Carentan and in subsequent bocage fighting, underwent extensive training and received replacement personnel to rebuild combat strength. On September 17, 1944, Operation Market Garden commenced. The 101st Airborne Division was tasked with securing series of bridges in southern Holland. Cole's 3rd Battalion was assigned mission of capturing and holding bridge complex at Best, critical crossing of Willems Canal in Zonche Forest near Dutch-German border. German opposition around Best proved far more fierce than anticipated. Germans had prepared strong defensive positions around bridge area and surrounding forest. On morning of September 18, 1944, only 2nd day of Market Garden operations, Cole's battalion found itself dug in and under fierce German attack. The battalion sustained pounding from German artillery, mortar fire, and small arms fire delivered from surrounding forest. American P-47 Thunderbolt fighter bombers operating in support of Cole's position made radio contact with battalion, requesting orange identification panels to be placed on ground to mark friendly positions and prevent accidental strafing or bombing. German snipers were active in surrounding woods. Cole understood that positioning men in open-to-place identification panels would expose them to sniper fire. Cole made command decision that exemplified his leadership throughout his military career. He would place identification panels himself rather than order men under his command to risk their lives. Rising from his position, Cole moved into open ground carrying orange panels. As he knelt to position panels on ground, a German sniper positioned somewhere in Zonche Forest fired. The bullet struck Cole, killing him instantly at age 29. Robert George Cole was buried at Netherlands American Cemetery and Memorial at Margraten, Plot B, Row 15, Grave 27. His widow and 2-year-old son, whom Cole never met, accepted Medal of Honor at formal ceremony at Fort Sam, Houston on October 30, 1944, less than 2 months after Cole's death. Cole's bayonet charge on June 11, 1944, stands as one of few significant American bayonet attacks of entire Second World War. By 1944, bayonet charges had become virtually extinct in modern warfare as primary tactical mechanism. Machine gun fire and artillery fire had rendered them suicidally ineffective, except in rarest tactical circumstances. Cole ordered and personally led bayonet charge, not because it was inevitable or doctrinally sound, but because it represented desperate commanders' recognition that immobility meant destruction and that bold, direct action offered only hope for breakthrough. If this story matters to you, subscribe, activate notifications, and comment where you're watching from. Robert Cole never received his medal in person, never saw his son grow to manhood, but his courage opened the road that liberated Europe. You're helping ensure that's not forgotten.